Hello and welcome to Miracle English Language and Literature Institute. I'm Professor Abha Sharma, and these days I'm doing the biographies of famous English authors and their literary attributes. I've already taken medieval poets like Chaucer and Langland, also John Gar, who was called as Moral Gar, and today we are going to do John Wycliff, who's also known as the rising star of Renaissance. So Wycliffe was born in 1320s and he was an English scholastic professor who was a reformer, a priest, the teacher of priests also, the seminary professor, biblical translator, theologian, and he even taught at the University of Oxford. So he was very influential within the Roman Catholic priesthood during the 14th century and is considered an important predecessor to Protestants. Now, he was born, as I already told you, in 1320s, that is 1324 at Yorkshire, England. The family from which he came was of early Saxon origin, long settled in Yorkshire. His father, Roger Wycliffe, was Lord of Wycliffe village. His mother was Catherine. So, at the age of 16, Wycliffe entered Queen's College, Oxford University to study law. After 1 year, he moved to the prestigious Merton College, Oxford University. He was a brilliant student in Oxford. He shined as a leader there. Even his most bitter enemies admitted that his power of debate was almost more than human. Wycliffe came under the teachings of Professor Thomas Bradwardine, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury at that time. So this professor led Wycliffe to a personal relationship with Christ. He taught him that the Bible was the Word of God and led him to study the Bible deeply. Wycliffe poured himself into the Bible and he began to see all things in the light of God. In 1348, when John Wycliffe was doing his graduation in Oxford University, the Black Death plague struck England. There were 5 such outbreaks of this disease in the 14th century, that is 1348, 1360, 1367, 1375 and 1390. This plague killed almost half the population of England. Rough estimates of the population of England before the outbreak of the Black Death was about 4 million, which after the plague had fallen to 2.5 million. The general population was convinced that the world was coming to an end. People were so distressed that they were turning to witchcraft and some kind of other magical things. Wycliffe writes his first revolutionary pamphlet in 1360 after the plague had subsided. The Last Age of the Church. This was the name of the pamphlet. In this pamphlet, he stated that the plague was God's judgment and account of the wicked lives of the priest and the corruption in the church, while other writers viewed the plague as God's judgment on a sinful people. Wycliffe saw it as God's judgment due to the sins of the priest. The mortality rate under the priest had been particularly high. John Wycliffe in 1360, while teaching in Oxford, entered into a ferocious war with the monks of the powerful Dominican and Franciscan orders. The monks of these powerful orders had a free run in the university and they went around the university trying to convert young students to their orders. Wycliffe preached and wrote against these orders. One of his first tracts against these orders was titled Objections Against the Friars. Friars means monks. He wrote a number of tracts attacking the evil of these monks in the name of religion. Wycliffe stated that begging in the name of God was the greatest impediment to development of true religion. His idea of Christian teachers was men and women supporting themselves by useful labor and also preaching the Gospels. So the monks would enter the colleges to convince students to give up their studies and to take up the monastic life themselves. These evil men acted in a similar way to the modern day cultist, that is, they targeted the young, especially the vulnerable and discouraged, to increase their numbers. Those beguiled by the monks were led into the life of corruption and misery instead of occupying their time with their studies as their parents had desired. He was an ordained priest in 1361 and was given a license for non-residence in 1363 in order that he might pursue studies in theology at Oxford. Wycliffe attacked the privileged status of the clergy, which had become very powerful in England. He then attacked the luxury and pomp of local parishes and their ceremonies. He advocated translation of Bible into the vernacular. In 1382, he completed a translation directly from the Vulgate into Middle English, a version now known as Wycliffe's Bible. It is probable that he personally translated the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and it is possible he translated the entire New Testament while his associates translated the Old Testament. Wycliffe's Bible appeared to have been completed by 1384. Additional updated versions being done by Wycliffe's assistant John Purvey and others in 1388 and 1395. Long before the Reformation of the Roman Church, the followers of John Wycliffe were questioning conventional religious beliefs. His followers were known as Lollards. Wycliffe had rejected the Roman Church, preferring a church comprising the body of the elect with all authority derived from the scriptures. The lordship depended on grace. The Lollards who followed Wycliffe derived their name from the medieval Dutch word meaning to mutter, probably reflecting their style of worship, which was based on reading the scriptures. They represented a general but very limited minority reform movement. The institution of the church, its landed wealth and tax exemptions offended several key groups who bore understandable resentment towards the bureaucratic and arrogant institution. The most important Lollards were a group of knights who were part of the king's court. These included Sir William Neville, Sir John Montague, and Sir William Beauchamp. They had a sympathetic support and active protection from the Black Prince and John of Gaunt. In the 16th century and beyond, the Lollard movement was sometimes regarded as the precursor of the Protestant Reformation. Wycliffe was accordingly characterized as the evening star of scholasticism and the rising star of the Renaissance or English Reformation. In the years before his death in 1384, he increasingly argued for scriptures as the authoritative center of Christianity, that the claims of the papacy were unhistorical. While he was saying Mass in the parish church of Holy Innocents' Day, 28 December 1384, he suffered a stroke and died. The Council of Constance declared Wycliffe a heretic on 4th May 1415 and banned his writings, effectively both excommunicating him retroactively and making him an early forerunner of Protestantism. The council decreed that Wycliffe's works should be burned and his bodily remained removed from consecrated ground. This order, confirmed by Pope Martin V, was carried out in 1428. Wycliffe's corpse was taken out, burned, and the ashes cast into the river Swift, which flows through Lutterworth. I hope you must have understood through these collected facts about the rising star of Renaissance, John Wycliffe. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe the video. And for more such videos, keep in touch. Take care until we meet again. Thank you so much.